Hi. It has been a while since I have been showing up, creating videos, and I thought it was time to give a little bit of an update on what has been going on in my world. Basically, I recorded a lot of year ahead readings in November, December, and January, and every time I'd get to the end of a reading, I was getting this personal intuitive hit that this is the year that my relationship to the of work that I'm doing changes. Um, I kept seeing that the people that I serve are getting more and more clear on listening to their own intuition. I kept seeing that predictive astrology was in some ways the days of that for me are sort of limited. Um, I kept, I was just, yeah, I was just seeing the signs. And honestly, I also got the hit that I should decompress, that I should explore what astrology has meant for me over the last 12 years. And if that chapter is in fact closing and changing in a different way. And through deeper reflection, I am also witnessing that I have a 12-year cycle. Each time Jupiter comes up to Chiron, um, massive things in my life change. The time it happened 24 years ago, I moved out of my parents' house. The time it happened 12 years ago, I moved out of my ex-husband's house. I got divorced. I completely changed the whole direction of my life. Each checkpoint was just, I mean, and the time before that, I started my period. So I was, I started my period when I was 12, moved out of my parents' house when I was, um, oh no, it's blah, 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 blah. Actually, that doesn't correlate. Jupiter doesn't hit my Chiron right when I was 12. It hit it when I was younger, much younger. I have to go in, I don't know the date of that one, but basically here I am saying that I'm not using a predictive astrology, and yet I'm still looking back at my story and seeing how the astrology set me up for these massive milestones. And this time it totally held me. It comforted me. It showed me that these transitions that I take in my life are part of the fabric of the way I move in life. They're not to be feared, that always after the transition, there's a place that I land that is supportive of the next chapter of my life. And so here I am having this experience again. The moment is acute right now. And so if you're not following me, basically, I'm taking my own medicine. I have for the last 5 years led people into their own recipes. I have revealed which milestone moments they're a part of, what cycles they're closing and starting, how that transition is serving their overall soul story, and why they shouldn't fear these changes, why they should embrace the windows of change with openness and faith. And here I am presented with the opportunity to do the exact same thing. And so I did. I stepped back from my role as a content creator, as a like reader of the weekly energies after leading a group every single week for the entire year last week. I just stepped back. I canceled all my membership subscriptions. I refunded a bunch of money. I just decompressed, and I created a space for my next chapter to gracefully land without having to compete for for the space that the last chapter was taking up. And I'm very fortunate that I operate in a way where um, basically, because I operate as a minister, I receive donations into an account that I consider a church. I'm an ordained minister. I have an account that is essentially the holder of donations for the church that I am a part of because I'm ordained. And when you become ordained, you get to operate as a chapel or minister. Anyways, I was fortunate enough to have donations in that space to support this transition. And as I was moving through it, I was like, oh, these donations are supporting me in becoming the best version of myself and supporting these transitions in myself so that I can continue to show up as a leader, as a minister, as someone who's like surrendered to the divine weaving of life so that I can show up at the right place at the right time for whoever I'm supposed to serve, so I can say yes to any divine invitations and trust that those are to position me in a place where I'm meant to be useful and of service. And I'm also willing to put down, um, you know, put down certain things that would keep me safe and secure, but also would keep me from stepping out and being seen more fully for the next level of my service. So, all that being said, I did a couple of like pretty massive trips. I spent some time alone in some different locations, just completely even decompressing from the day-to-day of being a mother or a partner. I just took time out and it was really good for me. And the space that was created was at some points kind of uncomfortable because I didn't know. Yeah, I had people reaching out, I had people checking in, I had people not necessarily like in desperation for me to work in the capacity I did before, but just genuinely concerned for me, concerned and caring about me. And for those of you that did, I just want to say thank you. It meant a lot to me that you checked in with me, and those check-ins came at times when I was in a point of the soul searching, and it was important for me to know that there were still people holding space for me and believing in me and um, accepting me, even if I'm not showing up the way that I did before. And so, anyways, now we're in March and we're nearing this big changeover that happens at the astrological new year into Aries. And I'm definitely feeling how clearing the soil made space for all of these new seeds to make their way to the surface. And in the last 2 weeks, it feels like the garden is starting to really liven up. I'm seeing that there are a few seeds that have been, they were like bulbs or cicadas. They were like projects that have been under the earth for a long time. And they're sprouting at the same time that shorter term seeds are sprouting. And I'm having to really ask myself, like, what do I want this garden to really be about for my life? Like, I think for most of my life, I've thought about how I want to be for others. And now this change has helped me to see that I'm such a strong creator. I'm such a powerful creator. And that when I include what I want in my garden, what kind of experiences and fragrances and fruits and vegetables and experiences of life, what I want is actually going to have a frequency that will serve even more completely, like even more potently, because if I love it, if I'm enjoying it, if I'm fully partaking and nourished by it, then anyone else I invite into my garden is going to feel that as well. And I feel like I operated on a pretty like tight garden for the last 12 years. Um, 12 years ago, I got divorced. I moved from the garden that I experienced for the 12 years between moving out of my parents' house and moving out of my ex-husband's house. That garden was so different than the garden I experienced the last 12 years. It was, I feel like I lived two dramatically different sides of a coin. In the first 12 years that I'm discussing, I I was an incredibly magical being and I didn't even know it. And I attracted like a fairy tale into my life. I attracted, it felt like a prince-like energy in my ex-husband. And he built me this amazing custom home that was like a castle. And it was on this property, and there was a river and a huge bridge. And like it was so removed. I felt like I was living in a separate world, completely of my own making. And I was able just to play, and there was a lot of abundance of material wealth. And I was able to just, I don't know, I guess I was able to completely exhaust what just creating on the material plane. I was able to exhaust creating on the material plane, like to the point where I was like, what else? What else could I possibly be creating? Like I have literally everything. I had, I couldn't even, there was no material thing on earth that I could possibly want while I was in that world. And that led to a cracking. And the cracking led to a changeover where I took a leap. And I had to basically believe that there was something more than material, tangible, beautiful things, that there was this other spiritual component to life that I couldn't ignore, that was disrupting and completely degrading my pleasure that I took from the material world. And so when I jumped from that next 12-year point, which was in 2012, um, that jump was into a very minimal material wealth. I basically left that world with almost nothing. And I like actually did like a little comedy skit about it, because it was also a time when potentially I could have been judged as a little bit crazy. I was I was very immersed in a spiritual experience. I was hearing voices. I was like trusting guidance, hearing my audible guidance more clearly and valuing that more deeply than anything on the physical plane, because I was perceiving that the physical plane was just not as real. It just didn't matter as much. It was simply a byproduct. It was like the tip of the iceberg, and all of a sudden I just didn't care about it. And so I dipped into this place where, yeah, I just let go of everything. And that transition put me on a path where I had to learn a lot. I learned a lot about energy. I learned a lot about what are we even doing here? What is it? What's a human? What does it mean to be a human? You know, I attracted teachers that took me into very intimate teachings that were passed on primarily verbally. Um, I I I just dove all the way in, and I started to see how our energy creates. And, you know, anyone who stepped into healing modalities, you very quickly learn that if you're finding a lot of clients with the same healing issues, that's probably because you have those issues and you're attracting those people so you can develop the medicine and coincidentally take that medicine for yourself. So I went through this really intense healing journey that included physical massage and neurokinetic therapy, like healing the physical body, healing the emotional body, healing the intellectual body. You know, there's a whole body of work that went into personal development and understanding how our thoughts create things and how we believe our thoughts. And so it was just like this really educational time. And all the while, my physical needs were definitely met, but any kind of creative endeavors, any kind of like, well, what do I want? Desires were just not the highest priority. And I operated just a tight ship. And it served, I got to understand lots of different experiences around faith. There was a moment, it was December, it was right before Christmas. I was pregnant and expecting a baby very soon. I had $68 left in my bank account, and I had purchased the only thing I could really afford because I knew we still needed to eat. I was a stuffed animal from a thrift store for my son. Now, my son was still living in the castle, and to receive a stuffed animal from a thrift store was not the optimum present for him. And so it was really humbling to like arrive in that spot. And I remember like sitting in the car outside of Walgreens thinking like, well, I'm completely out of mascara. Do I want to have visible eyelashes, or do I want to buy stocking stuffers, or should I buy some bread and lunch meat? Like it was like such a hard moment. And yet like somehow magically the guidance, the spiritual trust, the faith, the beliefs, all of the tools together um, delivered me the money I needed for what I needed. I was able to still pay my rent. I never defaulted. I always paid my bills. Like I always, the musts were always covered. And when I went into labor prematurely, my community came together and they brought everything that my baby needed. And they, while my baby was in the NICU, they completely like filled her nursery with all the things that I would need. Like it was like this moment of really understanding how we're in relationship with community and how when you really need it, community shows up. And so it was a massive learning experience. And that was 8 years ago that all that happened. So you can imagine even more education around turning around and focusing on community and serving community and showing up for community whenever the need is there, whenever we're called, like answering the phone, whenever someone's requesting that help. And so I've just operated this way. And so all this to say that there's a changeover happening where I'm meant to marry those two chapters. What if I could be a creative artist? You know, in the first chapter, I went to art school and I was a prolific writer and I was a ceramics artist. I got my ceramics degree in sculpture and I was like working for a nonprofit arts organization and supporting, being advocates for the arts. Like I was such a active, prolific artist because I had the capacity and freedom to focus on creating in the material plane. That was that whole 12-year chapter between moving out of my parents and moving out of my ex-husband's. And I've literally had almost no space or bandwidth to create or be that creative artist in this chapter. In fact, the only creativity I've done in the last 12 years has been writing, but writing to serve. Like I'll write the story because it will serve the community. I'll do this because it serves. And that's been such a strong value for me and a motivator, and almost lost any kind of attachment to what I would actually want or what I would actually love to experience or create for myself just for the sake of it. In fact, even thinking about creating something that just I enjoy, it felt so like far away or out of reach in the last 12 years, except for now. And now I'm in this changeover, and it feels like I'm braiding together. It's a braid. It's a braid of that first chapter where there's so much support and abundance, material capacity to enjoy pleasurable creativity just for the sake of it. There's that braid. There's the deep healing, cathartic service, ministry, like dedicated willingness to serve. There's that braid. And in between, there's this third piece that I'm I'm committed, like it doesn't even feel like committed. It just feels like it's being delivered to me. It is being invited into my life. And so it's starting now. And my work is changing. Even the way that I work with my mentor clients has shifted from a very analytical and like this week and this week and this week, like rather than helping people to navigate the unknown, I can feel myself accepting the unknown as if it's a lover that is delivering me delightful, mysterious experiences. And if I had put the crutch of the map or the astrology in between me and that mystery, I might have missed some of it. I might be missing the romance of it. And over the last couple of months, I've experienced a lot more of this romantic sensation with life, but also the vulnerability of that. And I haven't been like completely graceful with it, right? Like, in fact, yeah, I find myself kind of rushing back to the astrology, like, help me, this is a lot. Like, I don't know what's going on. Like, help me. And being assured each time, yeah, girl, this is life. It's okay. And so, anyways, I'm I don't even I hope that this check-in feels, I don't even know. You know what? That's weird. It's changing in my system. I don't even know how this check-in feels to you. I don't even know if it serves you. To me, it felt like it was time for me to have a conversation about this with people that I've worked really hard to establish a relationship with, people that I care deeply about. Like, I wake up in the night thinking about you. Like last night, I was up at 4 o'clock in the morning. I have like opportunities to speak coming up. And I was like, oh my gosh, if I could just give something to the people that are going to listen, if I could give like a seed that I knew that they would take and they would nourish it and grow it, and it would grow in this garden of their heart. Like if there was a flower that I could pick, a bouquet of flowers from my garden that I wanted to give to you, how would that garden be in the shape of words? And like my love for community has got me wanting to create bouquets of, oh my gosh, it sounds so funny. Bouquets of love, like bouquets of, I just want to create. I want to create all kinds of things and I want to give them. I want to display them. I want to just put them. I want to be the artist again that is creating for my own joy and gets to share it or do it together with community. And so this is my way of saying, hey, I'm changing. I hope that you're all changing in your own ways too. And I hope that it feels graceful and beautiful and romantic. And if you're feeling like a new chapter is starting in your life, I hope that maybe this conversation, I don't know. I want to say like shines light on what that, I don't know. Even now I'm like, yeah, but I don't know. It doesn't really have to have an outcome. Like mostly this is where I'm at with stuff, and I feel a lot of blooming happening, and I can't wait to share it with you. And thank you so much for walking with me for all these years. And I promise that even though I've been a little radio silent, I think about you all the time, and I am okay. I'm good. I feel like I'm better than ever. And I don't know how to even label that yet in any way that makes sense. So anyways, this is me, and I'd love to hear from you. How are you feeling? How's this year going? Let me know. I'll talk to you again soon. Bye.